Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready to take a bite out of the competition? Are you looking for ideas to make your business better? Welcome to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet,
sponsored by Apple Capital Group.
At the core of every successful business, you'll find people making a difference. And with each episode of the Core Business Show, we talk with those people, examine those ideas, and explore the strategies that make them special. Now, the host of the Core Business Show, Tim Jacquet.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Core Business Show. I'm Tim Jacquet, your host. Today our topic is Sell or Be Sold, How to Get Your Way in Business and in Life by Grant Cardone. If you want to join any conversations, you can go ahead and call at 347-324-3460, 347-324-3460, or you can pose a question in the chat room and I'll go ahead and read it on the air. Well, Grant, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I guess to begin with, kind of tell us about yourself. Our listeners like to hear personal stories and always learning something new. So you might just tell us about yourself and then how you got started.
Sure. I grew up in Lake Charles, Louisiana. My dad was a very hardworking middle class, trying to get in the middle class and trying to hold on to the middle class. So he taught me work ethic. He died when I was 10 years old. And then my mother raised me and two other boys by herself. She didn't have an education. And there was a mentality in my household because of the time period that my parents were both born from the Great Depression. So they had that kind of mentality of save, scratch it out, work hard, this concept of waiting for a rainy day, the emergency is always going to happen. They were brought up like so many millions of households in this country and left me with this idea that, hey, you can do anything you want, but you have to absolutely work hard for it. My dad was very much in the belief of that if it was going to happen, it was up to the individual to make something happen. If nothing happened, it was the individual's fault. And he very much loved sales and believed that selling was important for people. He kind of left that with us even at a young age of 10. To learn how to sell and persuade and market is a survival strategy.
Wow. So taking it from that, coming from Lake Charles, Louisiana, it's beautiful there. My family's from Louisiana as well. But kind of tell us, from Louisiana, you grew up, and how did you move from there and start your career?
Well, I don't know if you got enough time here, but, I get out of college. I get a college degree because my parents said it was so important. And I believe they were right at that time. I don't know that they're right now, that data would be true, because I left college with a loan. It took me 5 years to get through. I owe the federal government money. And lo and behold, I look up and there's 24% unemployment in the marketplace that I work in, and nobody's hiring an accountant. So basically, my 4 or 5 years appeared to be a waste. The only job I could get was in sales. Literally, the single only job was in sales in this little refinery town. So I got in a sales job, wasted about 2 years doing that before I finally said, man, you got to get your head on, because the economy was still terrible. This is 1978, I guess. Mm-hmm. And the problem was not the economy. It wasn't even the industry it was in. It was that I had never committed. I had been in this transition where I was leaving college, thought I'd have an accounting, job. Now I'm in this sales job I don't like. Like so many people, even today, that's happening to lots of people that get out of college with a degree and then they can't use it because of whatever the economy shifts. So the good news in any economy, regardless of how good or bad it is, salespeople are always needed. So I finally, really at 25 years old, said, I have to learn how to do this. And I committed the next probably year or two and studied everything I could on selling, including recording interactions with my customers. And within about 14 months, I reached the top 1% of people in my industry. Now, I went from literally zero to hero in a period of 14 months once I made a commitment.
So what type of materials did you read to get you up to speed?
Anything I could grab, anything I could get on selling. Back then it was cassette tapes. I would listen to tapes. I was listening to, all the greats, the Zig Ziglars and the Brian Tracys and the Jackie Coopers, all these names that we've heard of for years, Think and Grow Rich. I was reading these books, and more importantly, I was starting to practice and drill, not just read, because I know a lot of people that read but never are able to put it to use. So I spent a lot of time each day. I spent as much time in drilling, rehearsing, and practicing as I did in reading and actually collecting data.
Wow. So any of those books have something in common? That was a common thread that you noticed with all those cassettes and all those books?
Yeah, the common thread in all those was, as simple as this may seem, was there's a reader. On the end of every book, there's someone that wants information. That's the difference. The guy that doesn't pick up a book, the average American reads one book a year. Now, while I could tell you the content had some similarities in all these books, the reality is that at the end of each book or audio program or seminar is someone that wants data, that wants change. And for me, what all those books had in similar was me, a hungry guy, 27 years old. He was done, sick and tired of being poor, sick and tired of being scared every day, sick and tired of not performing. And those are all three different things. I was just disgusted with not reaching my potential as my financial situation. And so that's a great question, because it was me at the end of those books that had something in common. This hungry want, I know I can do more. Today, that is my definition of success. Not money, not how much money you make, but are you living up to your potential? Am I living up to my full potential? If there's more for me to get, then that's the thing in front of me that I'm seeking to get. How can I improve me? And that's what the books and the programs were doing.
Wow. So when you took that sense and then you say, I'm going to make this change, and you do it, how did you get to 1% of selling? Because, what's incredible? What's incredible? It was so fast. It was unbelievable. I'm talking within a year, I had reached the top 1% in an industry, not a company, in an industry. It was so radically fast. And I'm going to tell you why, is because most people aren't doing anything. And that holds even more true today than it did 20 years ago. People are not studying. They're not learning. We're going back to when there was 3 TV channels. Today there's 800 TV channels. There was no internet. There was no Google. There was no iPads. Today people they don't even know the information they're getting today. People wake up in the morning and get hit with all kinds of drama and crazy stuff on a daily basis. They're not in charge of their content. The only change I had made in my life at that time, at 25 years old, was I changed the content I was receiving in my life. And the guys around me that I was selling against did not change. They waited for things to happen, and I refused to. And so I think anybody can be in top 1%. It has nothing to do with whether you're outgoing or extroverted or introverted or A-type personality or pace. It has something to do with, are you hungry? Are you willing to show up? And are you willing to improve yourself every day? How do you keep from getting overwhelmed as a salesperson? You're on the floor of any particular business, and these things, you try to get all of this stimulation to click, and you just can't get it to click. What do you say to that person?
The thing I do to not get overwhelmed is to do everything I can to get overwhelmed.
Wow.
Now, so I know that sounds like this monster contradiction, but I get overwhelmed when I don't have enough to do. People are getting burnt out. Oh, I'm burnt out, Grant. I'm so burnt out. It's because you're not playing a big enough game. You're not burnt out. You're bored. People get burnt out when there's no purpose. They get overwhelmed when the game is not so interesting, and they get overwhelmed when they're not trained. So if I get a flat tire, I get overwhelmed. Why? Because I don't know how to change a tire, right? So yeah. If 4 tires go flat, it isn't any more difficult for me than if one goes flat. I just don't know how to change a tire. But then I'm going to have to read the manual because I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm having to read the manual under a time constraint. So people need to be trained in selling. Look, the entire economy, 300 million people live in the United States. Every one of them needs to learn how to sell, because sometime in their life, they're going to have to persuade someone to do something, whether it's get married, get a promotion, get a job. They might have to sell themselves on quitting one job to go do another bigger one or to start their own company. But you just can't get away from this selling concept.
No.
And the schools don't teach it.
It's kind of ironic because, children are natural born sellers. When they want something, they're going to sell the parents to the very end. They're the best closer when it comes to a parent. A kid can make a parent buy a car. A kid can make a parent do a lot of things, and also around them. So you have that instinct of selling at a young age and getting what you want. What happens to the person when they become 18?
That is such a deep question. First of all, young kids actually don't sell. Kids bypass selling and just go for the close. They don't do a presentation. They don't do the build-up. They don't do the rapport building. They're like, hey, give me this or I'm going to tear this freaky grocery store apart. And I think what happens with the kid is the kid is so determined. He is so willing and so not socialized yet. We haven't broke the kid yet, which is missing in most salespeople. Most salespeople are trying to be professional as opposed to demanding what they want from a customer. Now, an untrained person, when they hear that, the first instinct of an untrained person is, oh, this guy's a man, he'll pressure people. The only people that think that when I say demand that the customer buys from you, when I make that statement, because that's a close and that has nothing to do with selling. These are completely different art. I know a lot of people learn how to sell, never learn how to close, and I know people know how to close that don't know how to sell. The kid only closes. So when I demand that somebody does something with me, and when the listener says, oh man, that's high pressure, there is something that person doesn't understand about selling and closing. And number two, anytime you won't demand somebody purchase from you, you don't believe in your product, yourself, or your company. Because if you completely believe, you would demand. If it's right for the customer, if your product's great, whether it's a book, a $30 book, or a $300,000 condo, if it's a great product, you should demand that people buy it. If you're a great company, you should demand that people do business with you. So that's what I think the child does. He has this demand. He's not been socialized.
They haven't broke him yet. We're going to take a break real quick, and then we're going to dive right into your book, Sell or Be Sold. We'll be back in one moment after the station break.
You're listening to the Core Business Show, sponsored by Apple Capital Group. Apple Capital Group in Jacksonville, Florida, is a commercial lender that specializes in asset-based loans, equipment leasing and financing, invoice financing, commercial real estate loans, and asset-based financing in the U.S. and Canada. Apple Capital Group is a direct lender that lends on their private equity investment portfolio. 90% of most loans are decided within 2 hours, and vendor funding within 24 hours after documents are completed, with a one-page application. No slow no's, just a quick decision and a fast yes. To get more information about lending from Apple Capital Group, call 866-611-7457. That's 866-611-7457 to speak with one of our loan specialists. Or visit us right now at applecapitalgroup.com. Welcome back to the Core. Once again, here's Tim Jacquet.
We're back with Grant Cardone. Grant, talking about your latest book, which is Sell or Be Sold, kind of tell us how did you come up with that title, and how did you come up with the idea of having this particular book?
Okay, good. So Sell or Be Sold basically is telling people you're either doing the selling or you're being sold. There's no gray here. You're either doing the selling and getting your way in life and in business, or someone is selling to you. You're being sold. Every single second of every day, somebody's selling something to somebody. Even if you're just watching TV, if you're watching the guys at Fox, Sean Hannity and O'Reilly are trying to sell you something. If you're listening to the guys at MSNBC, they're trying to sell you something. Everybody is trying to persuade you of their belief system. So to the degree that I'm sold, and I'm not just talking about selling as a career now, it is vital that I am able to stay sold on myself and my goals and my dreams and my purpose. Otherwise, I'm going to be influenced to do what the President of the United States wants me to do or what an entire party wants me to do. Right now in America, it is so important for people to get sold on their purpose and stay sold on it. I say in Sell or Be Sold, I say in the book, the most important sale you will make in your lifetime, and you will have to repeat every day, is the one you make to yourself. And that book is about how to stay sold on what you want.
What differs the amateur versus the professional seller?
Well, the difference between the amateur seller and the professional is this monster, unbelievable commitment to his career. I mean, you know, when you look at salespeople, the best salespeople I know, and I've been around tens of thousands of them now with our seminars, from the books, from everything that we do online, I've either been in touch in front of tens of thousands or heard from them online. And the big difference is the professional, he's not looking at a sale. He's not thinking about a sale. When he sells something or does not sell something, he's thinking about his business. He's not he doesn't look in terms of, I sold somebody something. He's looking at how he's building his business every day. He's not even thinking about, am I a salesman or not? He's thinking about, am I growing my business? He's never satisfied. He's extremely competitive. He wants to be at the top of the board. He wants to be at the top of his game. And he knows to do that, he must continue to educate himself to be great and to stay motivated. I mean, motivation in this thing of selling is like vital. Like, I got to be excited. And so how do I stay motivated in a negative environment? And I think that is the difference between the pro and the amateur. The amateur just shows up and hopes and wishes and prays that something good might happen to him. And then he spends the rest of the time blaming, coming up with excuses, the economy, the product, whatever. He comes up with endless list of excuses of why things aren't going well for him.
Wow. When it comes to relationship, is it all about relationships when you try to close someone or try and sell someone something?
Well, I don't know at that point that it's, certainly they need to trust me. Certainly the more the person trusts me, believes in me. But really, when it comes down to closing a transaction, the big difference is certainty. I have to create certainty. Today, people have so little certainty in themselves. It's a social problem. I mean, we have hundreds of millions of people that just don't have certainty. When to buy a house, when to buy a car, where to go to get their money, where to put their money. There's so much uncertainty in the marketplace. The closer's job is to create so much certainty so that the buyer can actually make a decision. You actually have to give the consumer, whoever buying a product from you or investing with you, you have to reinforce their ability to make good decisions. Because once you have enough certainty, then you'll do anything.
So, we compare to, in your book also, you're talking about the price myth. I've never imagined 15 years later I would pay $4 for a cup of coffee. And it's not all about the price. Of course, if they can have certainty that they can trust you. Tell us about that when it comes to the pricing.
Well, I wrote this whole chapter called The Price Myth, and this is probably the number one question asked to me online and in my seminars. Hey, Grant, what about the price? I got a guy down the street, he undersells us. I got a guy, I got another product that's half our product. It's not the same, but it's half the price, half the product. And how do I sell against price? And I'm like, look, price is a myth. The people that get the lowest price are typically the cheapest salespeople. No offense to anybody, but I used to suffer from this same problem. I made all my decisions on price. So you know what? All my customers made their decisions on price. I was actually projecting onto a customer what my beliefs were. I thought value was created by a lower price. And I ended up with all these customers that actually assessed value or determined value based on price. Once I finally got myself corrected about my product and my price, if it was a $4 cup of coffee or a $40,000 car or a $400,000 condo, I have to figure out, why is that $4 cup of coffee worth $6 to somebody? I'm gonna walk up to Starbucks right now and go get one. In fact, why when somebody gives me $4 for a cup of coffee, what did they say about that $4? They said that cup of coffee is worth more than $4 to them, or you wouldn't have given it to me. So if somebody buys my book for $30, he has determined that he's not looking for $30 when he gives me that $30 for the book. He's looking for something more than that, right? If somebody pays $30,000 for a car, they don't think the car was worth $30. They think it was worth more than their $30,000. So that's what the price myth is about. In a one answer, it's about getting the reader to understand that whatever number somebody offers you or gives you, they believe the product is worth more than that.
Wow. That's awesome. What's the difference of an aggressive person and a passionate person? Should you get aggressive and try and close someone, or you just show your passion?
Well, you want to get passionate. Look, I'm an extremely aggressive person. It doesn't mean other people need to be. But when it comes down to when things get really difficult, the aggressive people do tend to eat more. I mean, that's just the way of the world. So when it all gets ugly and the place starts burning down, the person that wants that front door the most typically ends up getting there. So, and I think all personality types can be aggressive, but passion, you cannot You have to be able to you must be passionate, not even for the consumer. Just to stay in the game, of anything, you got to be passionate. And the people that tend to be the most passionate are the best trained. If you ask me to go ice skating tonight, I'm going to be like, dude, I'm just not very passionate about that. Why? Because I don't know how to ice skate. People that quit sales, they don't quit sales because they weren't meant for it. They quit sales because they hated it. And the reason they hate it is because they don't know what they're doing. All human beings quit things they're not good at. You'd be an idiot not to. The way to get good at it is to train. And that's the way you're going to be passionate. You're going to get training and education, and then you'll get more passionate.
Well, do you think a lot of people are out of work because they don't want to sell? Maybe they're always, if you look through all networks, there are always a lot of sales positions available. Are there natural-born people that sell, that's in a DNA, they're going to sell, that's who they are, and there are some people who can't sell? And it's training is the answer for that.
Yeah. I think there are people that are just natural, kind of like, okay, that's what they're going to do. Look, when you look at them, you think it was natural for them, but they don't think it was natural. Was it them to go to strangers and talk to them and look at appointments and be turned down and rejected? If that's natural to you, then, you probably got a couple screws loose. People have to get used to that. You have to, nobody is born to be a great salesperson. It's just not true. So here's the big problem. I think people are actually persuaded not to be in sales. I think people are told that there's something degraded or wrong with it or bad about it or it's not respectable. Steve Jobs, when Steve Jobs died, nobody called him a salesperson. But I don't know of anybody that was a better salesperson than Steve Jobs. They called him a genius. They called him radical. They called him an inventor. They said he changed the world. The truth is, Steve Jobs was one of the best salespeople that has ever walked on planet Earth. He sold people on products that we didn't want, never thought about. He was an unbelievable salesperson, but wasn't contributed with that as one of the adjectives for him. So I think there's some disdain in America for salespeople. If you go to India or China, they love salespeople there. They want to sell. And I think that's a big difference why so many people don't go look at that arena as a way to make a lot of money. And by the way, salespeople are some of the best paid, if not the best paid, people on this planet.
Wow. You bring an interesting point before we close. Got two more topics real quick. If you notice around the country, some of the best people on the board are from foreign countries because they're so aggressive, from the Asian community, from the Indian community. Why is that? From the Middle East?
Yeah, I think I just hit on it. I was up in New York City. They won't even hire Americans now. I mean, I was working with two companies there. They're like, look, if the guy's from Persia or it's a guy from Connecticut, I'm hiring the guy from Persia 100 times out of 100.
Wow.
They're hungry, Grant. They're hungry. They're driven to take care of families. They go to work for a purpose. They're sending money. Some of their money's going overseas back to take care of their mom and dad at home or their uncle or aunt, and the rest of the money's staying here, and they're saving it, and they're trying to make a business, and they're trying to create a middle class in the American. That they're soft. And no offense, I love America, but we got soft. Somewhere we got soft. We're not hungry. We took this middle class for granted for too long, and now we see it disappearing from us, and people are starting to lose hope. But they shouldn't, man. The opportunity in the marketplace is so unbelievable right now for those people who really want to work hard, study hard, and get their game on.
Okay. The last two questions is how to ask. We have a question here. How do I ask for the sale?
Okay. I would set it up early. I would tell people before you start presenting the product that your intention is to make sure they walk out with your product. Your intention is to make sure they make a decision. Like we sell a lot of products over the telephone. We tell people in the opening parts of the call, my intention before this call is over with is to have you using our product tomorrow. I'm closing people in the very first moments and letting them know that is my intention, because it is my intention. Look, I have a great product. I have a great company. We're going to take care of you. Or otherwise, I wouldn't be on the phone with them. People with high levels of integrity that really believe in what they're doing should be asking for the close a lot sooner than they are.
Mm-hmm. And social media, how has that impacted the sales process?
Oh my gosh! I mean, we're moving from Los Angeles right now, where we've lived in Southern California for 22 years. I'm moving to Miami. By the time I get to Miami, I will have looked at 100 plus homes. Yeah. I will have looked at, sorry, I'm bored. See, I'm staying overwhelmed. Like I told you earlier, I got a plane, I got a flight, I got a call, you got to stay in the game. So we're going to Miami, and I will probably look at 100 plus homes with Google Satellite, see the interiors, exteriors of the home, already have my financing done if I choose to finance. And the reality is I'm down to where I know what 100th block of a neighborhood I want to be in. So by the time I get there, the real estate agent's had a lot of his work done. If he would pay attention, if he'd really become a professional in a changing environment, he would understand. He could ask me, how much have you looked on at the net? And I'd tell him, okay, good. What have you determined based on what you saw on the net? And I would tell him. And now he's reduced his selling time because the internet has become his partner if he would learn how to use it. And then there's Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter that we could do a whole nother interview on, which in the last 2 years I have used like abundantly to build my business. Wow.
Anything you'd like to leave us with? I know you're getting ready to get on your flight.
No. Follow me on Twitter at Grant Cardone. I'd love to help people there. That's free data, and we provide people with information every day about how to sell and how to stay in business and how to be an entrepreneur and how to make their businesses and their lives work.
Great. Well, Grant, thank you for joining the conversation. I appreciate your time, and have a safe flight.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and have a great weekend.
Take care. This has been the production of the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. Thank you all for listening. Take care, and again, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. For a free quote on equipment leasing and financing, visit our website, applecapitalgroup.com. That's applecapitalgroup.com. And fill out the information to receive your free quote. We hope you'll join us for our next episode. And remember, you can always get to the core via iTunes. You'll find all our previous episodes there. Thanks again for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet.